Your dog CJ, man, he had some stuff said before the game. He struck again, bro.
He go talk that trash, but hey, you go talk, you got to back it up at some point in time.
This clip from the Micah Parsons podcast has Eagles fans really, really unimpressed. And listen, I've got to admit, I find this trend among North American sports, well, especially football and basketball, of players having podcasts they run during the season really odd, especially if they're interviewing or talking to players from other teams. And I realize this is a bit of a hard-ass take, but I do think the competitive spirit should be maintained during the regular season versus, if you're a hockey fan, you may be familiar with the Spit and Chicklets podcast, what they call playing tummy sticks. Don't Google that if you don't know what it means. Anyway, on the most recent episode of Micah Parsons' podcast, he had Darius Slay on as a guest. And I mean, from right there, a lot of people are sort of scratching their heads. A lot of former Eagles players on that point alone were openly criticizing two divisional rivals, yucking it up together on a podcast. You look at the comments, and a lot of people seem to feel the same way. Like, imagine Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu having a show together. But things got even more controversial when the topic of CJ Gardner-Johnson came up. And for those who are unfamiliar, CJ was, I'll say, confident before the Bucs game. You know what? I'll let CJ speak for himself.
I'm only 30 minutes up the road. I'm gonna put belt ass today.
Anyway, safe to say as the game progressed, the Buccaneers put the beat down on the Eagles, and CJ's number 8 was seen in the end zone a few times near the action. He was getting openly mocked and ridiculed online. Not that I'm sure he's new to consequences for his trash talk. But anyway, when asked about the situation during his appearance on Micah's podcast, Darius Slay, for one, defended the trash talk, but was also, I think in a roundabout way, fairly critical about the fact that CJ's not backing up his words. And if you look at the responses, people pretty uniformly think this is shitty. This is stuff that should probably stay in the locker room. If you have criticism for a teammate, even if veiled in fairly constructive terms, that doesn't need to be aired out. You don't need to be yucking it up with a divisional rival for attention. This would be like a decision you make in NBA 2K and lose team chemistry over. And CJ Gardner-Johnson didn't seem to be happy about it either. So this is a mess. I think if I were coach or GM, I'd have a no podcast rule during the season. But of course, that's just my take on the situation. I think a lot of Eagles fans, former Eagles players are talking out against this, but I look forward to reading your thoughts on all this down below.